Mixing friends, Graham here from the recordingrevolution.com. Hope you're having a great start to your week. Here I want to show you how to take home recorded drums that are kind of a little lackluster and give them punch, give them depth, and a bigness that might be missing using nothing but stock plugins. 3 simple steps with 3 simple tools that you already have in your toolkit, no matter what DAW you use. So I have a track here where I feel like the stuff was recorded well, except for the drums. I feel like they're a little flat, a little lackluster. So take a listen to where we're at and you can hear what I'm talking about with the drums. And then what I'll show you is how I got them to sound better, to be more appropriate for the song, and then show you the 3 simple steps you can follow using, again, stock plugins, tools you already have in your DAW. Take a listen.
So go pack up all your records, the ones I borrowed from your drawer, and all those postcards stuck in novels. But we don't need them anymore. I tell you, if I knew you like you know me, maybe we could find a way.
All right, drums have a good little beat. It's appropriate for the song. It just doesn't feel full. I feel like I hear them hitting cardboard. I hear like sticks hitting cardboard. It's keeping the rhythm, not the way drums should sound, though. It's not full enough. So here's what they sound like after my 3 steps.
So go pack up all your records, the ones I borrowed from your drawer, and all those postcards stuck in novels. But we don't need them anymore.
Much better, right? Fuller kick drum sound, fatter snare drum sound, more depth. They sound cleaner. They just sound better. What's going on here? Let's take a look. First, let's zoom in and hear the before and after with just the drums so you can hear the difference a little more drastically. Here's before. And after. Much better, right? What's going on here? Well, let's take a look at 3 steps. The first step is the one that I used to skip for the longest time, and the one that I see most of my students skipping, and that is phase. There are inherently going to be phase problems with almost anything you record, most definitely with multi-track drums. What is that? When you have multiple microphones. Anytime you bust out more than one microphone on anything, you need to put in the back of your mind, I need to check for phase problems. That's why I'm a big fan of just using one mic on things like acoustic guitar, piano. You eliminate phase problems every single time. But if you're recording multi-track drums, you're going to have phase problems almost every time. And in this case, there were definitely 2 or 3 that really needed to be fixed. So let's take away the processing here. The first thing I want to point out is there was phase issues with the overhead track and the floor tom. Now, the floor tom acts as the kick drum in the song. There is no kick drum, believe it or not. They just have this pattern on the floor tom, which is interesting. But the first problem lies there. So take a look at what's going on here. Here is the floor tom being hit. Right here. Here is the delay of the floor tom in the overheads, which is pretty typical, right? These mics are farther away from the close mic, so the sound takes a little bit longer to get to them. I'm not opposed to that being the case at all. I don't mind the delay. That's part of the sound. The only time I mind the delay is when it creates phase issues, and this is one of those such examples. If I increase the waveform here a little bit better, you can see what's going on. Take a look at this. So here's the floor tom. When it's cresting up on the close mic, the same sound is cresting down in the overhead. These are canceling each other out, meaning having the 2 mics playing at the same time is going to make the floor tom sound thinner, smaller than it really is. The opposite's true here. As this waveform crests down, it crests up here. So what we have is major phase cancellation. Now, you could just flip one of these, but the problem is that then you get phase issues with other mics. What I decided to do this time around, and I do this every once in a while, is actually align the overhead mics to the floor tom because it really fixed a few different issues. So what I did is on a separate track, I duplicated the overhead in case I screwed anything up. I just basically cut the overhead mic and just dragged it back, eyeballed it, did not use any tool to do this. You can just eyeball this and made sure that the waveforms were lining up. Got a lot closer. So here we are on the separate track. Okay. Now you can see we are lined up. When the crest is going up on one mic, it's going up in the other. It's going down on one mic, it's going down in the other. We're doing much, much better. Is it perfect? No. Is it better? Yes. And you can hear the difference. So let's just listen to the room mics and the floor tom. Here's before. What I'm going to do is just loop the floor tom hit. And after. Much more full. Before. After. So we've already increased the fullness and thickened up the floor tom, fattened it up without any processing. We just got it in phase with the overhead. Very, very important there. The other phase issue I saw/heard was the snare drum. And in this case, we have a snare top and snare bottom mic. Now, if you have ever mic'd a snare top and a snare bottom, then you notice that at least visually, those two microphones are pointing at each other. There's a snare in the middle, like the sandwich, and these two mics are pointing up and down. And in theory, if you took away the snare, they're pointing at each other, which means they're going to be 180 degrees out of phase, meaning sound is going to hit those mics completely at the opposite direction. If it was recorded well, or if the engineer was thinking about it, he or she may have caught that on recording day. Did not look like that happened here, because you can tell if you zoom in on the snare mics, these bottom two here, well, you can see the problems. Top mic is cresting up, exact same time the bottom mic is cresting down. Top mic crests down, bottom mic crests up. They're completely out of phase with each other. And that makes sense. That's the way that it would happen if you didn't fix it on recording day. So what I had to do is flip the phase of one of them. So I flipped the phase of the top snare mic to make it all line up a little bit better. So you can pick one or the other. I picked the snare top. What I did was grab a trim tool here in Pro Tools. It's just a trim plugin. I don't use it for anything other than this little button here, the polarity invert button. So flipping that basically inverts this snare drum. So now it sounds better. You can hear them together with them out of phase. Flip the phase of one of them. Much more weight. Before. After. So we've already given the snare more weight, more beef, just by getting it back in phase with itself, okay? Major, major importance. So that was step one, is get phase fixed. And those are the two big phase issues on the drums here. Now, the second step is EQ. And EQ is super important, and you want to do different things. In this case, I just did a couple things. On the overhead mic, I really just did cuts. I did 4 cuts, rolled off some low end. I scooped out about 140. I scooped out a bit at 500, and I scooped out a bit at 1.4K. These were just frequencies that when I listened to the overheads, I just didn't like the sound of the room in them. And a lot of times with small rooms, if you record drums in small rooms, you just got bad frequencies. And I like to just find the nasty stuff in the overheads and cut it out and just leave whatever's left. It really makes the overhead sound better. So here we are. I'll just loop a section of the overhead, and I'll solo it. Here's before. After. It just cleaned up stuff that was nasty to me. So it's not going to be drastic. It's just going to be cleaner, which is good because it leaves more room for the close mics to do their thing. So then we've got the floor tom, which was supposed to be my kick drum. There is no kick drum in this song, so I had to really do some work on this. So I did some EQ, and you'll see I did 3 cuts, a little bit of a high pass, about 38. I did a major cut at 142, which was the exact same place that I cut in the overhead. So there must have been something nasty in that, the way that floor tom rings in that room, and I didn't like it in both mics. Took out a steep cut at 1.3. That was a little bit of a ring. So that cleaned up the floor tom, but then what I needed to do is add some more weight. So between the phase and then a little bit of a bump here at 57 hertz, that added some more thickness to the floor tom, and then just a little bump at 6K to give a little of that thwack, that beater. It really helped the floor tom sound better. So I will turn the floor tom EQ off and then bring it on. Just fills it out just a little bit more. Now keep in mind, this is all happening through a drum group where I also have a little bit of EQ. And on this case, I've just done a little bit of a boost there at 75, couple of cuts, and a little bit of a lift as well. And that really gave the drums a little bit more clarity as well. For the snares, again, they sounded better with the phase fixed. All I wanted to do on the top snare was just clean it up a bit. So I took out some low end, took out some ring, and then just gave it a little more sizzle at 4.5K to really open it up. So let me bring in this EQ without. On. Right, so if you take away the EQs, and what I'll do is I'll put the EQs all in one row here. So we can do that one fell swoop. Take away the EQs, you can kind of hear where we're at. Right? Just a lot more weight, clarity. You get rid of that nasty ring in the room, just the fake sound. Simple EQ on top of the good phase work really, really helped. And this final step, step 3, is compression, and I only used 2 little bits of it. One, I did a little bit of a compressor right on the drum bus, just because a little bit of this 1176 compressor just did enough to kind of give it a little bit of weight. Hear how it elongates the snare? Dude, it's just not, it's doing just a tad, like 1 dB of gain reduction. Really, really simple, slight compression there. Really, really helps. And the final step is I love some heavy parallel compression because it can really give you the final weight that's completely missing. And that's where you just route some of your drum tracks to a separate track. In this case, I did the room, the floor tom, and the snares to this track called P drums. And I have some very aggressive compression here, which by itself sounds like this. And I'm just blending that in with the regular drums, and it really, really helps. Huge, right? And what it's doing is taking the already cleaned up in phase and EQ'd drums and now adding them to this process. That's why you do this last, is it really is going to take the cleaner sound and blend it in. Otherwise, you'd have out of phase stuff being overly compressed and mixed in, and it'll just make more of the problem apparent. So here we are, the 3 steps. Again, phase, some simple EQ cleaning up and a little bit of enhancing, and then some compression, both gentle and heavy, can do a lot. So let's take away everything before. Much better, right? There you go. That's how you take your lackluster drums, maybe recorded in a small home studio, and really, really clean them up with stock tools, stuff that you already have. Now, let me ask you a question. Leave a comment below. Are you using all 3 steps? If you're mixing your drums, are you using Not just EQ, not just compression, but phase. It's usually the one that gets left out. Are you using all three? If so, let us know below. If not, let us know which one you haven't been using or haven't been using the best way. Leave a comment. That's totally fine. And then leave me one other comment. How else do you like to take maybe lackluster drums that you recorded in a small space and really help them to sound really, really good? Leave your comment below. Let us know what other tips you're using, techniques you're using, maybe plugins, maybe the way you like to process. Maybe you use the same tools I'm using, but in a different way. Leave us a comment below. Let us know because I want to collect as much of this information as I can in one place and make it a helpful resource for people. So go ahead and leave that comment below. Subscribe to the videos if they're helpful to you. And I will see you on another video soon. Take care.